Behind me is Hollywood Center Studios, or formerly, I think now they call it Sunset Studios. And it's where many, many TV shows were made. Mr. Ed, That Girl, Perry Mason, the first 2 seasons of I Love Lucy, The Addams Family, Green Acres, Ozzie and Harriet. They made the movie The Onion Field here. And I Married Joan, but for our purposes, The Beverly Hillbillies was shot here. And there was one of the plots was that the Hillbillies, I believe it was the Hillbillies, bought a movie studio. It was called Mammoth Studios, and they shot exteriors here actually because they didn't have to go anywhere. It's right here. So I think there's one scene where there's Jethro's driving a covered wagon or some sort of wagon with a monkey on it. And I remember seeing the Hillbillies driving in those gates.
Oh, come on, Bessie, quit making so much noise. I don't want to attract no attention.
This is a photograph I have of the Hillbillies. This is actually my TV guide from the Hillbillies, which it's quite bizarre because, well, it's the 3 single ladies from the Beverly Hillbillies. But this is one of my prized possessions. I got to spend time with the Hillbillies a few years ago, several years ago, probably 25 by now. This is a book cover of my friend Steve Cox's book, and he invited me to go to San Francisco to film the Jerry Springer show. I wasn't on it. I was just there to have a good time and to hang out with Steve and to meet the Hillbillies, which I got to do. You can see this is autographed. This is Buddy Ebsen. This is Max Baer. This is Donna Douglas. And this is Louie Nye. Louie Nye played Sonny Drysdale, and he was there too. And of course, my buddy Steve. It was a wild, very interesting. We had dinner with Max. I'll tell you all about it. I'll tell you about Jerry Springer. I'll tell you about Max, having dinner with Max and Donna and everything. So this video is about the Beverly Hillbillies. I did a video a while back about Nancy Culp alone, but this is about them all and my day with the Hillbillies.
But first, a quick trip to the Ozarks. This is where Paul Henning, the creator of the Beverly Hillbillies, comes from. And there's a very cool piece of hillbilly memorabilia here.
In the Ozarks, in Missouri, at the Ralph Foster Museum, to see a car. So here we are at the Ralph Foster Museum in Branson, Missouri. And you can see there's some documentation from Paul Henning of the Beverly Hillbillies talking about August 18th, 1975, about the Beverly Hillbillies car and placing it in the Ralph Foster Museum. Huh. And there it is. That is the original driving down Beverly Boulevard in Beverly Hills car. And this truck is the original vehicle which appeared in this Billways television series called Beverly, created by Paul Henning, who was from not very far from here. Look at that, look at the details. Hey. Wow. Yeah, there was a time where you could take a picture, and in fact, it's still all set up for taking pictures. But the camera doesn't work, the printer doesn't have ink, and they said it would be $20. So we said, okay. And then went, oh wait, no one's trained for that, so we don't, they just say no. No to pictures with the car. California plates. That can't be Granny's rocking chair. But it's certainly where it was perched. But I don't remember her rocking chair being that thick. There's a grindstone in there. Is it a meat grinder? Traps. saddle horse thing, spare tire, butter churn, and this, oh, that must be a rake. Okay, that's a rake.
Okay, back to Beverly Hills, California.
A lot of cool TV shows in the 60s and the 70s had merchandise and celebrating. I mean, it was the cool shows. You know, the 60s cool shows like Land of the Giants and Lost in Space, and cartoons like Huckleberry Hound and Deputy Dog. They had these lunch boxes. The cool one, Peter Max had a lunchbox. Charlie's Angels had a lunchbox, but it wasn't with Farrah, it was with Cheryl Ladd. I started collecting lunchboxes later in my life, when I was in my 20s, because my lunchbox growing up was plaid. That was it, plaid. But I started collecting them, and this is part of my collection. A Beverly Hillbillies thermos. It's a glass one too, and it's not broken. Remember, that was a thing too. You drop these things and the glass inside would break, and then they just became useless. But anyway, this house does still exist, actually. A lot of people think that house has been torn down, but it does exist on Bel Air Road. It's just been, the property has been repositioned, and they bought more property and put a big wall around it. But that house is definitely still there. But another iconic shot was they're driving down the street with the palm trees, the opening credits. And that street is behind me. There's Elevado. This is the Beverly Hillbillies street from the opening credits. Here they are driving down Beverly Boulevard. You can see this street sign, Elevado. And here we are.
So here's the story of my encounter with the Beverly Hillbillies. The Jerry Springer Show ran for 28 seasons. It started in 1991. They shot the show in Chicago. And before Jerry Springer's show went kind of haywire and it became an audience free-for-all humiliation fest, they used to do legit fun shows. And one of the fun shows they did was a reunion of the Beverly Hillbillies.
Hi, I'm Jerry Springer. Jed, Ellie, Mae, and Jethro are here with us today. So now it's our turn to offer them a heaping helping of our hospitality right here at the Palace of Fine Arts in the San Francisco Bay Area. You all come back now, you hear?
And my friend Steve Cox, who wrote the book that I showed you a little bit earlier, the definitive Beverly Hillbillies book about the show and the production and the people involved, was asked to be a guest along with the remaining stars, main stars of the Beverly Hillbillies, Buddy Ebsen, Max Baer, and Donna Douglas, a rare Max Baer involvement. And they also brought along another famous comic from yesteryear named Louie, who was friends with the cast and was invited along because he played Sonny Drysdale on the show. So Steve asked me if I wanted to come along for this taping. And I'm like, yeah, I was living in Los Angeles. No, actually, at that point, I was living in Chicago. And he asked me if I wanted to go. And it was going to be a sort of next day thing. And I went, yeah, sure. So I took a couple of days off from work. Actually, I took one day off work and joined Steve in San Francisco. And that evening, we had dinner with Max Baer. Actually, I lifted, didn't lift, he left it behind, the notes, Max Baer's notes about the schedule of where the show was going to be shot and the days that it was going to be shot. And we were staying at the San Francisco Hilton, and that night we had dinner with Max Baer, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, Max was sort of toying with Steve that, maybe I'm not going to show up tomorrow, because it was a big deal that Max is going to be there. He got actually an entire segment of the show just on his own.
Please welcome Mr. Max Baer.
So it was a treat for Hillbillies fans and a really rare occasion. And Max was terrific. I mean, he talked about Irene Ryan, and one time on the set, he got into Irene Ryan's lights, and she stomped him on the foot with those army boots that she wore on the show. And she just looked at him and said, "You're in my key light." And we talked a little bit about Nancy Culp, who had passed away. I don't remember very much about the dinner, but I remember it was being very cool. And I also remember leaving dinner midway to use a payphone to call my sister to say, you'll never guess what I'm doing right this minute. So that was a real treat. The next morning, we actually had breakfast with Louie Nye. Now, I like Louie Nye because he was sort of the generation behind me, but I always found him rather pleasant. I liked his voice, and I really liked the fact that he was Zombo on the Munsters. That was like my favorite Louie Nye performance. And at breakfast, Steve and I talked to him a bit about the Munsters. And I say, he was just a really nice guy. We had a couple of laughs together on Buddy Ebsen's bus, because Buddy Ebsen was given his own dressing room, and it was a tour bus. And we sat there before the show with Buddy and with Louie, and that was really kind of cool just to chat a bit. I didn't talk much to Buddy Ebsen, but it was really neat to be, with him. And then the show was taped, and we had a really great time. I sat in the audience, but I actually convinced Steve to ask Max about Sharon Tate. Of course, I got to go there. I always do. And Sharon had a bit part on the Beverly Hillbillies as a secretary at the Commerce Bank of Beverly Hills named Janet Trigo. And she wore a black wig and for some reason, a terrible black wig. And Jethro, in real life, I should say Max Baer, dated Sharon. So I got Steve to ask Max on stage about Sharon Tate. And that was a pretty interesting moment.
This is interesting. Max may or may not want me to bring this up or not, but Max, I think, went on a date or two with Sharon Tate, who was on the Beverly Hillbillies.
Yes.
Yes, and she wore a black wig, and this was in the early part of the series. And Max, didn't you go out a couple times with Sharon Tate?
Do you all know who Sharon Tate was?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I took Sharon out a couple of times.
Oh, it's a tough crowd.
No menage a trois. No, what happened is that Sharon was doing a pilot called Petticoat Junction. And she wasn't in it, but she ended up playing Janet Trigo, which was Jane Hathaway's secretary on the show, her assistant. And I took her out a couple of times. She was really a terrific girl, though.
And
After the show taped and the stars were going their separate ways, Donna Douglas was outside the theater, and I desperately wanted to meet Donna Douglas to get a photo with her. She was outside, I think, and Steve and I were in a car, and he goes, now's your chance, go. So I hopped out of the car, and I asked Donna, I said, do you mind if I get a photograph with you? And she goes, no, that's sure, and that'd be fine. I remember Steve not forewarned me, but just told me to make sure to ask Donna for permission to put my arm around her if we were going to take a photograph, to ask her first. She was very particular about that sort of thing, which I completely understand, and I did, and I got a very nice picture with her, and I got a very nice experience, and I have these photographs to commemorate the event. It was really, really kind of it was one of my favorite moments in life, and I thank Steve for making it happen for me. And he got the cast to sign my book cover, which was super cool and a prized possession. So those are my Beverly Hillbillies stories. I met Donna a couple of other times after that at autograph shows, and just very quiet person, and not Ellie Mae like at all, but super nice. They all were. And there you are. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little trip down my memory lane with the Hillbillies. And I thank you very much for your time and very much for your attention. And until next time.
Doggy.